Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, the Candyman, coming at you live from our 12-site recirculating deep water culture grow. Now, the last time we were in this room, we were talking about grow room maintenance and all the things that you do in between a grow, essentially to avoid having any kind of problems with your next grow. That major thing being cleaning. And sanitizing the room and making sure that it's pest free and that no bugs are in here and all those other types of things you're trying to avoid. So that has all been accomplished, and the system has been reset with 12 Granddaddy Purple clones. I am considering this to be day one of veg for the system, and it's a little difficult to tell from the video, guys. First of all, we're using the new camera, so I'm hoping that the video quality is better than it has been. But B, one thing is that they're all really small right now, but you can see that some are significantly larger than others. Hopefully you can see that. But as always, guys, what you want to do is take those smaller plants and put them in the area that gets the best light, and then put your bigger plants on the outside of the perimeter to kind of give them a little less light and retard their growth, so to speak, so that they all catch up and you get good uniformity. And that really starts right here, day one of veg, guys. And I kind of do that throughout the veg process, to be honest with you. If I find a plant's really starting to run away and get bigger than some of the ones next to it, I might bring it down to a different spot and, for instance, down the ends where the light's only really coming down from one source, as opposed to the middle where you're getting, hit from all three of the hoods, basically. And then you'll also get the benefit of the reflection off the back wall, whereas the front row really doesn't get that reflection. So I do take my bigger plants, put them on the outside, but also as the grow goes, as it progresses, the bigger plants, those tend to be a little bit more of a little harder to handle and wrangle and prune and shape and get everything the way you want. So you really want those on the outside, but also if they are bigger, they're going to need more room. So I like to keep my bigger plants on the outside, give them a little space to grow this way, and that's pretty much it. So day one veg, guys, what's it really all about? It's about getting the plants adjusted to their new environment, and that's really all about giving them low stress. So I'm giving them a really low feeding right now, 0.02 EC. It's about 140, 200 parts per million for the nutrient concentration. Also, Super Thrive. It's a product that I've showcased before on the show, but great product to reduce stress. It's really just vitamin B. There's some kelp and some other things in there, but really, guys, this is the product that is going to help you reduce stress when you have it. And then something that I don't do all the time, but I do kind of want to start adding it to my regime, especially at this stage in the game, is a little neem oil. Neem oil's it's tricky stuff. It's oil that you're going to mix with water, which anyone who knows anything knows that oil and water don't mix. So it is a little tricky to get it mixed right, and you put a little soap in there with it. But essentially, guys, you spray that on your leaves and really you coat your whole plant with it. And what it does is it kind of forms like a wax on the surface of the leaf, and that kind of keeps a lot of bugs and other things that might go after it, out of the equation. But it also gives it a little bit of a shield against any kind of pathogens, mold and mildew and stuff like that. So as your plants get bigger and more mature, they're going to naturally resist all of those things on their own. But when your plants are small like this, they're really fragile, and you really want to make sure that you're giving them all the protection you can give them. So I give them like a mild neem oil coating, and I have not coated these plants yet. That's going to happen today, but it is something that I'm going to start doing. And the other thing that does, guys, is it kind of acts as an anti-transparent, or basically slows down the loss of water through the plants if it's hot out. So a lot of times people will use Einstein oil and neem oil if they have a low humidity situation, or if they have a situation where it's really, really hot. So, it says that it doesn't clog the stomata, but I mean, if that was the case, then it wouldn't slow down transpiration. So like I said, I think it's a little bit of a tricky stuff, but definitely good to coat your plants with. It's not going to hurt them if you use a mild enough dose. I think if you put too much, yeah, it definitely will. But like anything you use in the grow industry, whatever the label says, just cut it in half and try it with that first, and then build up to full tolerance as they go. So that really concludes the intro, guys. I want to come back for topic of the week and Q&A. Okay, guys, so the topic of the week this week is something that I've kind of talked about before, but I want to really just kind of hone in on it today, and that's low stress training, which is essentially bending your plants little by little as they grow and encouraging them to kind of grow out a little wider than they would if you just let them sit there on their own, and they would go straight to the light. And I think this plant right here is a really good example of some low stress training that I've been working, even just at the clone phase. Because it is really small. But I'll come in and I'll just take these plants and I'll very gently give them a little bend on the stems in all the directions, and basically spread them out. I like to encourage it to spread out the natural pattern that the plant is growing in, but sometimes you have to curve them or tie them to something. But I'm definitely not like grabbing it at the base where it's fragile. I'm going all the way out at the end, trying to really curve the stem down, and slowly but surely that will encourage the plant to grow out in that direction. And if you come from the top side, you can see that I've already got a lot of heads, whereas this plant right over here, and it's just because that's sometimes that's the way the cookie crumbles, this was a little smaller and it hasn't really developed yet. These little side shoots haven't really developed. So what I do when I get a plant like this is I come in and I give it an extra top. Although you can see that right here where I've topped this plant, and these are now the two shoots, but the two top shoots. But yeah, when you get a long kind of singular looking plant like that, as opposed to a bushy plant like this, even though they're clones and they're they're exact genetic replicas of one another, this just isn't the basic morphology that I want for a plant, and it'll catch up. Like I said, as long as you top it or take that top shoot off, that's going to diffuse the growth hormones to the bottom shoots, which will encourage them to elongate. And as long as that's going on, and I come in and I really nice and easy low stress train my plants, they will eventually end up getting nice and bushy. Here's another pretty good one. You can see the branches are really starting to kind of spread out, and then I'll come in and kind of trim any fan leaves here on the inside to try to open up the plant, let it get better airflow and better light to all the different nodes. And that's something that I start really, guys, day one of veg. I cut the plants, put them in here, and basically give them a couple days to recover, grow out. If I see any kind of undergrowth that I want to remove, I do that early and often, and just keep doing that, and eventually the plant will take on a shape that you like, and you can sculpt it to these cages if you use cages like I do, and you get a pretty good yield out of a plant compared to not doing any of that stuff. And it's not a lot of work, guys. It's it might have taken me 1 hour to kind of groom and clean these plants the way I wanted them. And it's a lot of fine, scissor work, because they are so small and the leaves you're removing are really tiny. But as they get bigger, yeah, it can take longer, but maybe an hour or 2 hours a week max for a crop this size. Just going in, removing any kind of undergrowth, and keep bending the plants out to get them the way you want. And if you do that, guys, and hopefully this particular video series will demonstrate that, if you do that, you get a nice bushy crop with lots of heads running across the top, as opposed to one big collar at the top and a lot of little ones at the bottom. So I think it's going to pay off in the end, guys, and I encourage you to do it. Alright, guys, time for a little Q&A, and this week we have a question from Suzanne S. She writes, "Why is there no soil in any of your gardens?" Well, Suzanne, that is a good question. It's something that I've talked about before. It's multi-tiered, I guess. Why don't I have soil in any of my gardens? Well, there's a variety of reasons. One thing is that you have to replace it every grow. And yeah, there are growers out there, especially if you're working in like true living organic soil where you're, trying to cultivate a medium with beneficial fungi and bacteria, and you have basically a living soil. Yeah, you can reuse those, but that's a lot of work onto itself. And I got to tell you, I'd say 95% of growers I know, maybe even 99%, they use the soil once and then they change it out. And so to me, that's a chore. Okay, which number one is something I have enough work to do. Even if you're just growing one plant at home, guys, or even just a small home grow, you got enough work to do, and anything that you can do to take stuff off that list is good. The second reason I don't like soil is that, it can harbor bugs and pathogens. I mean, all the soil companies out there, they say, yeah, we've got pest-free soil, et cetera, but I mean, anytime I've ever grown in soil, I've always seen way more bug activity than any of my hydro gardens. And all things being equal, I have to say, okay, well, I'm pretty clean and methodical about the way I do things. Everything else is X, Y, and Z are the same. The only difference is the soil. I gotta say that that's probably the source of where the bugs are coming in, So it was just something that, I don't want to have to deal with pests. It's, again, it's not a good time when you do, and it's only gonna make things worse. All right, and then, another reason is that I don't use soil is that it's way easier for me to come in here and check the parts per million and the pH of my hydro system in real time and know what, each individual bucket is getting that exact same pH and that exact same parts per million. Even though the plants may be bigger or smaller in the containers, the solution that they're being fed is a uniform solution, and it's circulating enough through this type of system where they really shouldn't be altering it before the system can, move all that solution through the buckets, too much anyway. So basically, I have way more control over the crop this way. It's more work on a day-to-day basis to do it in hydro like this, but generally speaking, I can really dial it in and get a lot better control. And then also, you'll hear different things out there, guys, but at the end of the day, I don't care what anyone says, hydroponics is faster and more productive than soil. You can finish a crop faster, you can get a bigger yield in hydro than you can in soil, all other things being equal. The environmental conditions being equal, the feeding schedule being equal, the genetics being equal, everything else being the same. If you grew a plant in a 5-gallon pot with soil and a 5-gallon deep water culture bucket like I have here, not even a recirculating system, just a standalone bucket. If you grow those two plants side by side, and a ton of people have done it, I've done it, there's a lot of YouTube videos out there, I think, side by side shootouts. But if you grow two plants side by side, one in soil, one in hydro, and you know what you're doing in both regards, the hydro plant is definitely going to yield out bigger and possibly earlier. So those are all reasons why I don't grow in soil, Susan. The other reason really is that it's a cost factor, really. I mean, it's not like a huge reason, but if you're growing in soil, that's one more thing you have to buy that I don't have to buy because I just have water in my systems. When you're growing in soil, you got to buy those bags, you got to physically carry them from the grow store to your grow, in and out. It's just a hassle that I don't want to do. Now, I do know that there are a ton of people out there that say that soil and hydro will affect the taste of the finished product, and I will say that that's probably pretty true. And that's definitely also subjective to the nutrient line that you're running. If you're running in soil, but you're running a synthetic nutrient line, you might as well just be growing in hydro, And if you grow in hydro and you run a true organic nutrient line, even though a lot of them are a pain in the ass to work with, you can get a really good organic soil flavor out of it. So, it goes both ways, but at the end of the day, if you grew in soil with a real organic nutrient line, yeah, it does produce a really distinct flavor, taste, all that stuff. And kudos to all the growers out there that, you know, grow in soil and do pure organic and TLO, True Living Organics, and all that stuff. I've played around with it. I know about it. If I had to use it to survive, I could do it. But for me, this is a faster, more efficient means of growing. And, you know, I guess that's the full answer that I can give you. So that's it for this week, guys. We're going to try to shoot a video every week and stay with these plants all the way to finish, but no promises. You know, outdoor season harvest is going to be right around the corner, and I'm sure that is going to be a complete bear with all the different projects that I'm going to have to work on. And basically, yeah, you know, scheduling gets crazy, and I want to stick with this as best as I can, but no promises, guys. But that's what we're shooting for. And until next time, this is the Candyman telling you to grow hard or go home.